Okay, welcome to another episode of Inside Israel. We're here with Michael Gerbitz from United with Israel, and my name is J.P. Katz from tribejournal.org. I don't know about you, but for me, Monday's trip to the communities on the border of Gaza, the communities that were attacked, it's one thing to watch it on film. It's another thing to actually be there. All the hostage releases compounded the emotion behind everything.
Hearing about this in the news so much and reading about it, you can kind of detach emotionally when you're dealing with it from the perspective of as a news consumer or even as a news producer, seeing the people that it affected and seeing the homes and seeing, it just made it so real.
Yeah, the homes that are no longer, and a lot of the families that were in those homes are quite literally no longer. They're sifting through ashes, trying to identify bodies.
Well, the day we went this past week was kind of gloomy.
Yeah. In fact, we pushed it off a week because of the rain, and then we couldn't escape it. Like, the rain was going to be part of this visit.
I think it set the right tone for us.
Yeah, except for my camera.
Okay.
Let's walk through our visit.
We went to Karaza first.
Yeah.
The Karaza it's one of the communities that they show to a lot of people, to the politicians, to news people.
Elon Musk was there.
Right, before we were there. When we got into the settlement and we started driving through it, everything looked normal. Remember that?
This is where we would drive in from the Israel side, but we don't know.
Everything here is looking intact. It looked beautiful, actually.
Yeah.
It was a very beautiful community. And we were just thinking like, well, where's, we know there's something coming, and we kept wondering where. But finally, we did get to that section.
Right. Remember, we're approaching it from the Israel side.
Right. The side that was hit the worst was an area where the students live. That whole row that we saw.
Yeah, the whole street was burned out. I mean, every house on that street was literally just
one house after the
either
next.
Grenades in it or totally charred. You see holes in the walls, but then you look up and you realize the holes in the walls are not bullets. Like the entire ceiling is showered with, holes from the shrapnel. Something in the form of a human being took a grenade and threw it into that house, that living room of a family.
That's right.
And exploded a grenade inside someone's home.
Yeah, so some of them were completely charred from the walls, the ceiling, the floor, everything. And you can only imagine what was going on. An inferno in there, literally a gas chamber. I mean, that's just... I don't think it's any different than a gas chamber, and it was probably more violent and more horrific. Seeing that with my own eyes was very difficult, but I wanted to see it. It's just like I believe it's important to visit Auschwitz and concentration camps, etc. I think there's a history there that we need to feel connected to, even if we weren't there, and I feel it's very important. This just happened a few weeks ago. I think everybody should go and visit.
100%. For me, it was more how many people on social media are literally denying that this ever happened. And so I feel like there's going to, it's kind of like Eisenhower went to the gas chamber. He went into Auschwitz and said there's going to be a time when someone was going to deny that this happened, and I wanted to make sure that I saw it myself.
Well, it's a little crazy. There are those who are denying it, but on the other hand, Hamas took most of the footage of the destruction, and they're so proud of it. So, why isn't the world calling them out on that? I mean, on the one hand, they're saying, no, we didn't do that. We didn't, on the other hand, the footage that we have that's showing all these politicians and the whole world, the horrors of what happened, was taken by Hamas. And so it's just, the whole thing is so crazy.
Lunacy, absolute lunacy. We're so numb to their lying.
I've been in the business of exposing their lies and getting the truth out for many, many years. And this is beyond. I'm saying there's nothing even to talk about. There's nothing absolutely to talk about. But the trip was quite interesting. I don't know if we're supposed to say this, but it was a private tour we had with 12 Mossad members. We're not going to say who they were because we didn't know who they were, but we know that they were seeing the important things, and we were together with them.
I don't know if you can say this on film, this part.
Well, we're not going to show.
You just did.
We're not going to show their faces.
It was a little bit of a rush visit. I couldn't really go into each house and visit with each house and just try and tap into the energy and to be there.
Look,
we had to bounce.
We have to go.
And then I heard in the distance some machine gun fires.
Is that the end of the ceasefire? Hafsaka, Gama? Huh?
It was a ceasefire. I don't know why. Maybe it was just target practice or something like that. Anyways.
There was an officer there that was in Hebrew, was telling us about what it was like, just a couple of weeks ago with bodies all over the place and the smell. We noticed that the smell was unpleasant. I can only imagine what it was like a couple of weeks ago when this officer was explaining that the condition that they found people in, he was describing the worst of the worst, headless bodies, taking heads out. He said he's seen it all, even children. Children were decapitated. This man said it, I heard it, and I just, there's no words. There's no words.
There's no words.
Going into those rooms, I'm just imagining 7 weeks earlier, 6 weeks earlier, whatever it was, what was actually happening inside there. A row is a row of student homes. It was a pogrom, nothing less than a pogrom in here.
The soldiers, there were fallen soldiers that responded really very quickly. I mean, people were there. I mean, it was a long fight. And we were told that when they thought the fight for Karaza was over, people were leaving, and the soldiers were saying, it's clean, it's clear. We cleared the place out. I don't know, it was probably the next day, some point on Sunday. And then they said they heard gunfire. And they had to go back in, and there was still like dozens of terrorists there that were hiding. So it was not cleaned out at all. It's unbelievable. So then we get in the car and we drive to
Nachal Oz.
Nachal Oz. There's a military base.
Military base.
It's an intelligence base. Like there were different types of bases. This was a couple of hundred soldiers that were in an intelligence base. So they weren't soldiers for combat, but that was the intelligence center. Or one of the many centers that they have to observe what's happening on the other side of the border, if there's any funny activity and whatnot. They were caught by surprise.
This is the building where 25 or more girls sit and watch the border through cameras. So the terrorists blew this whole building up with RPG rockets that were shot from right here. Very, very close by. They blew up this whole entire building. It was completely burnt. And around 25 female soldiers were burnt. He said there was only ashes left. They had to identify the girls that were in here just by the DNA from the ashes that were recovered. It was just unbelievable. Just imagine that an IDF base was taken over by terrorists. I mean, and not only that, the first gentleman we spoke to at the gas station, if you remember, Karaza, that officer, was telling us that it's not meant to be, it's not something they publicized, but he said there were about 10 bases that were taken over. Can you imagine? I mean, I can't even imagine one army base being taken. I mean, it's like in your wildest dreams. How does an IDF base get taken over? And 10 of them?
Thousands of these terrorists.
Right, but it's surreal. It's like something is going on here that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense how one army base can be taken over, and it really doesn't make sense how 10 army bases located in many different locations.
I don't know what doesn't make sense. They were overrun.
This is the IDF we're talking about here. They don't get overrun on their army bases, This is the IDF. Top brass, top intelligence, top everything, top equipment. They don't get overrun. Their bases don't get overrun. And for so many of them to get overrun at the same time in so many different locations, I don't have an answer, and I'm not looking to blame anyone. I'm just saying there's something going on here that's beyond what we can see, okay? Something that we can't understand, something deep that we can't understand. It makes you just think that Hashem is doing something that is completely unprecedented. We don't understand why. This is not normal. It can't be explained normally.
Thousands of terrorists stormed the border, and they caught a lot. They went into these bases all over the place, and they were dressed like soldiers. They came in paragliders. I mean, this is all old news. We know this, but you and I have spoken to people who were actually there, whether it be commanders, whether it be grandmothers whose grandchildren are there. Were there and survived. I mean, these soldiers responded. They have brothers and colleagues in their units that fell, and they were able to push back the enemy.
They did push back, and one of the people there was telling us how the terrorists were such cowards. You know, they came into these settlements and they're with this top equipment, just blowing away people in their sleep in their pajamas. He said when the IDF came, the IDF showed them who is king, who is boss, and blew them away. But these cowards came in like you know, dressed to kill these poor little innocent people. Yeah. Man, you don't need all that to kill civilians.
No, they're garbage. They're not human. They're worse than not human. They have intelligence of a human, but no sense of humanity. And it's worse than an animal. It's worse than an animal. A human being with intelligence, using it for such barbarism. It's just, it's inexcusable. It needs to end. It needs to be cut off completely. And
it was very rough to see.
And just again, you know, just tapping back into the you know, the empathetic response that we have, and we weren't even there, but we were just walking around more than a month afterwards, and it's just like, I'm sorry, it's just like it was such an emotional experience going through Karaza and then Nahal Oz. And then walk us through Nahal Oz. Well, I mean, that was just unbelievable.
Yeah,
you walk in there and you see just the base medrash was clearly shot at and attacked. You know, as we were leaving, there was the bomb shelter, and the bomb shelter is like you drive by it, you don't even know it's really a bomb. You go into I said, what happened here? They pointed out that video, there were women in a bomb shelter that it went viral. I don't know if everyone saw it. I actually downloaded it and matched it up, and I saw that I was filming when I was there at a different angle, but that was in fact the same roofing, and it was the same shape and size, and the light and the pathway and whatnot, and it matched up. And it was like, for me, having seen that footage of these panicked women right before their deaths was, you know, because he told me that's where they were, you know, the bodies were piled up and whatnot. And then to actually look at that bomb shelter where they were and see that was what I had seen on. It was just connecting dots in a very real, raw, emotional way. And then we left the Army base.
Remember, those tanks were parked right outside the Army base as we were heading out.
Yeah.
We looked up to the sky. It was a rainbow. And we got these shots of the rainbow, like right above the tank, and just,
it was beautiful.
After having left that place of destruction, and we know what the rainbow symbolizes, that, you know, God's not going to destroy the world again.
By water.
By water, okay.
Fire is a different story.
just seeing that rainbow above the tank after experiencing what we did. So I was okay with taking a shot with my iPhone, but you had a different idea.
I asked you to stop the car because you know, when you have a shot like that, you have to just be a little pushy and get the shot. You take the credit, I'll take the blame.
So you got out of the car, started taking shots, and our convoy was gone.
Out of sight.
They were out of there.
In our mind.
Literally out.
We're in the middle of this place with no.
So we're like,
we took one wrong turn, then you called.
That was a serious wrong turn.
Then you called up.
Someone thinks they know where you are and they're telling you this, that, and they really have no idea where you are, and you're like, so that was one of those moments.
Like, go straight, and there was literally probably a 3-story concrete blockage in the road. Like, there's no way we're going straight.
Right. He told us.
But you had the eye for, you know. I think I pointed out the road on the side there.
Yeah. He told us.
Said, Michael, I think that's the road we're supposed to be on. But the problem is that there was so much mud between where we were and what we would have to traverse to get back onto that road. We are literally in the middle of a mud field, and we almost just, I don't even want to say what. Watch out for the metal things there. Oh, snap. We're not supposed to be. Wow, what an action-packed day with Michael, huh? Big shout out to Genesis for designing the car.
I was just going to say that, you know.
That car, that was clutch.
It's a
pun not intended.
It's a 4x4. I've never actually gone off-road with it, but I know that it had this terrain mode, and terrain, you've got like snow and hills and mud, and like mud, I'm like, we're there. I mean, like,
never used that before, bro.
Never, and I hopefully never use it again. And we were like, We were like
Slip and
weaving,
slide.
sliding.
And I just noticed at that point I was a little bit nervous because I don't know if you noticed the stack of shells, tank shells. It looked like mortar shells.
Yeah, I noticed it when you told me about it. I didn't know.
Michael the Shells. Anyways, you did a good job navigating out of the mud, past the shells without blowing us up.
We almost hit the shells, but I did a nice move to the right.
Yeah.
And then it chugging away, got us to that next road and zoom.
You definitely get credit for that.
And the amazing thing is that they let us come in. We were going to Be'eri at that point, the final stop.
Yeah, I've never seen you drive.
Yeah.
Then we passed that field, and I had like flashbacks. The people from the festival were running down the field. I think it was that field, but maybe not. It might have been other fields like that, but it did look like, because we got lost, maybe we went too far south, and then we were cutting through something.
It looked like the park where the festival was.
Had like
and where the people were running.
The rows where they would plant, and it was just, that was like,
it was eerie.
That was very eerie.
It was eerie because it was completely empty.
Yeah, presence of some sort, something was going on there. That was trippy. That was very, very trippy. And then we get to
Be'eri.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we walk in there, and the first house we see was a beautiful home.
A
home on the corner.
Yeah.
A big, beautiful home with a nice yard.
An RPG blasted the front wall of this house.
Right, and the house was in shambles. You're seeing the kitchen stuff is there, and the dishwashing liquid, and the
bullets in the refrigerator, and everything's shattered, all the glass.
You saw that also Karaza, the homes, just like going into the bathroom, and just looking, seeing this shampoo still there. And I don't know where this person is. I don't know if he escaped. I don't know if he's alive, he or she. I don't know anything. I just know that life came to a standstill.
Yeah.
And it's almost like life, we need to set the clock back 6 or 7 weeks and let those people just continue where they were at with their normal life.
Different world. It's a different world.
It was like a freeze frame of time.
And a lot of these people, they're being released now into a world that they have no idea what happened. They were underground. They had no idea. Maybe they had some inkling, they saw clippets of family members on social media or on television when the terrorists were watching it, but they literally left during that. Like that is their freeze frame. Like their entire life stopped at that moment for 50 days, and now what a different world that they're emerging into.
And we spoke to that man that we interviewed, and you interviewed him extensively.
We do that tribejournal.org. We're going to be going back there.
And he told the story of what happened to his family and his father and his mother.
Incredible tragedy and heroism.
Some were saved, some were killed, some were taken hostage.
Yeah.
Hearing it directly from the people was a whole other dimension.
It was very powerful. For me personally, there's something about empathy when you hear someone telling their story and the pain that they're in, even though they're not crying, even though they're not, but they're just telling over this story that just seems almost superhuman to be able to withstand that much pain. I would say that really brought it home. Like seeing first 100 hours plus of carnage just on video, just all the video of their attack and the tragedy and just the massacre. Then going to the building, seeing all these houses destroyed, and then meeting someone and hearing personally, not from the soldier who went and liberated one of these towns, but the actual, a person giving their account as their family was being literally massacred. And to me, it just sort of like connected the whole thing together, and it was a very dark couple of days after that for me personally. It was tough to. It's funny because I watched so much of the footage, but for some reason that really struck me, and I'm looking forward to getting back there and telling their story, helping them tell their story with the video and the documentary at Tribe Journal.
And they want to tell their story. They do want to tell their story. And this gentleman that we met, he understands. He actually took a trip to Washington a couple of weeks ago, met with congressmen in order to tell his story, and he understands how important it is. Of course, it's difficult. The same thing sometimes with Holocaust survivors. There were those that kept silent till the day they died. Some were able to verbalize it towards the end of their life, and some were able to talk about it the whole way through. Everybody reacts differently.
Yeah, I felt like we were actually talking to people that had just escaped. And it's just, it's not like you're hearing about it 50 years later in a tour at Yad Vashem or in a tour of the camps. Like, this is so raw. It's so raw, and it's happening in real time, and we want to get everybody out of there, and we want to destroy Hamas. So it's like, there's just so much going on.
Well,
that
yeah.
After the fact, we can look back at the history books and try to think what it was like, but to be in it is such a indescribable experience. Michael, for you, what was the biggest takeaway?
Well, firstly, I'd say I felt like I was in a holy place. I know that might sound strange, maybe to some people, but if you visit Auschwitz, you feel like it's a holy place, and it's a holy place because so many people died al Kiddush Hashem and sanctification of God's name. We don't understand why this had to happen, but this is not something that happens. Nothing in my lifetime that I can remember is anything remotely close to this. And I just felt like there was something holy there. Tragic, but holy. I don't have anything more I don't have another way to explain why I feel that, but I felt like it was a holy place. Okay, if you're asking me about, I would say a couple of things moved me the most. One is, I think, just seeing like this big ball that kids play with and a swing in the backyard and all this destruction around it. Just seeing how the book on the bed, how life just stopped and how much life there was those moments before, and how it just literally stopped, frozen in time, with the kids' toys and with the kitchen utensils and with the bottle of wine on the thing. And remember that we went to the students' homes in Karaza, the beer bottles outside, just lined up on the windowsill like college kids would do, and they're still there. I don't know where the college kids are, but the bottles of beer are still there, and the kitchen utensils are there, and just that I think was moving. But I have to say that, as mentioned before, the place on the army base where those 25 female soldiers were literally burned to ashes, and hearing someone explain, how did they identify? There were no bodies. It was ashes. They needed to use DNA. It's very hard to. That was the hardest thing, I think, for me. I think it was the most moving thing. I think it's worthwhile if anybody is able to go. It's very important to go. Everyone will take something else out of it.
After Be'eri, we went to that army base, which was a couple hundred yards. I think it was like 400 or 500 yards.
Yeah, it was.
It's like 4 or 5 football fields from the Gazan border.
Yeah,
and that was interesting. That was interesting to see the soldiers coming in off of a day's work out there.
Yes.
Fort.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about the ATVs. I thought those were really incredible.
So that was kind of cool. They came in with all these muddy ATVs that were,
maybe that's why we had to go on a rainy day so you could see the ATVs in action.
And they were hosing down the ATVs. We have footage of that. Very, very interesting how, these
are special ATVs. These aren't...
Yes. And the ATV also stands for anti-terror vehicle, even though it's all-terrain vehicles, also anti-terror vehicle. That United with Israel, we were fortunate enough to donate 3 of those ATVs to Yatar, which is a specialized volunteer police unit that operates throughout the country.
Those guys are volunteers.
They are volunteers. Wow. They operate primarily in the South, but really throughout the country. And they use these ATVs to catch terrorists, to recover bodies, to do all kinds of search and rescue operations.
Yeah, they explained that they had tailored it. They put a whole back bed on it. It's like a steel plate, but it has places that you can fasten the stretchers. So you can fit like 2 or 3 stretchers on there, drive like 50 miles an hour.
It had to be repurposed for that unfortunate circumstance where they had to remove bodies. One of the ATVs that we saw was a United with Israel ATV. I said, well, where's the logo? They said, no. Are you kidding? I mean, I don't know what he meant. I mean, like the terrorists are going to try to blow it up, whether it says United with Israel on it or not. If it's IDF isn't enough or Yatar's not enough, I don't know. I wasn't going there. But one of the ATVs actually was blown up by Hamas. So that was told to me, in the very beginning of the war. But this was one that was still intact. Hopefully it will stay that way. The people around the world, that are part of United with Israel, they're doing great things. I mean, these anti-terror vehicles are being used every single day. And remember, we saw that massive, tank-like thing that was coming, remember, across the fence that was kind of coming in for the night? Like a massive tank, but I don't think it was a tank. I don't know what it was. But people were coming in, all these guys coming.
Transport, maybe some sort of transport
maybe
for
some
soldiers.
kind of a big transport. They were coming home after literally a day's work in Gaza. Imagine you go into the office, I used to live in Long Island, take the Long Island Railroad, on the way home, train to the car, and that's my commute home. These people are fighting terrorists all day long, coming back from Gaza, crossing back to Israel, and, washing their hands off in the mud, and that's kicking their feet up in the dirt, that's their day's work. So what these people are doing, it's incredible heroes. I mean, just to watch these young guys, and you know what? And they were in such good spirits too. Like, weren't they just like they were upbeat?
Yep.
They were like,
they haven't been home in a month. Like, a lot of these guys haven't been home. They're out there. They're out there right now.
They have a mission. They have a purpose. It's a meaningful mission. And, there's just a lot of motivation there. And they were in good spirits. We got a minyan together, right? We davened the evening prayer, the afternoon prayer.
Yep.
And some of them were participating with us. And remember, there was one guy that didn't have a yarmulke, so he threw the yarmulke and I put on my hood. And again, you see the spirit. You see that there's a sparkle in their eyes. They're not coming back like deadbeats. There's a sparkle. It seems like they have more energy coming back after a days and God. You and I were like done. I'm saying, like, we were like, and these guys that spent a whole day fighting in Gaza, they're like, they didn't seem tired at all. Ready to go, and Baruch Hashem, how God should bless them and protect them.
Amen.
Special people, and so many of them. Beautiful.
And all the victims as well. It was a tough 2 days. There's a whole other aspect of the war that's not quantifiable. A lot of the media is tracking casualties, tracking dead bodies, people who died in the battles or civilian casualties. We stopped by a family.
This is the shelter where they stayed the night on Motzei Shabbat.
I saw the mother was she's such, I don't want to say a wreck, and you can't blame her. I mean, she lived on the ground floor. There was an attack in Netivot. It was really a very quite scary thing. They were all moved into the bomb shelter, which was a dual-purpose synagogue. The aftershocks from this attack are not just by lost loved ones, but even people who lived through it are going to be repairing themselves for years, if not decades, to come. Not just the parents, but the children, right. And she's panicked. She wants to move, and you can feel her panic. And trying to calm her down a little bit. But these things are not quantifiable. You have hundreds of thousands of people living in the South that were really impacted by this, not necessarily in a mortal way, but they were impacted in a very real emotional and psychological way.
And that's what terror does. Terror is not only, that you're actually hit by a rocket, hit by a bomb, or a terrorist is infiltrating. For 99% of the people, terror just means living in fear. And when that siren goes off, and just even at night wondering, is my door secure enough? Is a terrorist going to break in? That's terror. That's fear. And that needs to be addressed.
Yeah. Or at least acknowledged.
Acknowledged, and these people need help. These people need help.
But there are definitely organizations that are dealing with the psychological impact.
United with Israel has donated towards that.
Oh, good.
Yes, donated towards therapy and help. relief for the victims, including that type of therapy. Also, United with Israel is going to provide some protection for this family and many others like them that are suffering from terror and fear. And yeah, if they need a new door, if they need a fence, if they need protection just to feel better, then yeah, we're gonna help them with that.
Nice, Michael. This subject matter is dark. Everything about war is dark, but I feel like this week I spent time just acknowledging the darkness of this week, and again, it was like juxtaposed with, countered with all the releases of the hostages were released this week too. So there's the darkness of visiting the massacre scenes, and then there was also the news of just another 15 released or 10 released, and people were being, the hostages were being let out of Gaza and reunited with families. And that just was a whole nother layer of emotional, it was that type of a week. And I think what really knocked me out a little bit in the first couple of days after our visit was just this again, back to my friend who we're going to be doing a documentary on tribejournal.org. What was crazy is I was trying to get his number, and finally I got his number after 2 days, and I think it was like 11 or 12 at night. I checked the news, and his sister-in-law was released. So it was just like his sister's still there, but his sister-in-law is reunited. It was an absolute roller coaster of a week, just having gone to Karaza, gone to Be'eri and the military bases there, having seen the carnage, having spoken to people, and then the person that I couldn't just move on. I have to help this person, and davening and just the whole day or two just a mess. Really, just not 100% by any stretch of my imagination. And then that night,
well, you never are 100%.
And then that night, one of his family members is reunited.
Well, that's incredible. It's a week of mixed emotions. It's a week of tragedy, but it's a week of hope. It's a week of seeing firsthand what we've heard about and actually being there, looking at those places, imagining what was actually happening there a few weeks ago. And it's a week of following the news and looking at the beautiful pictures of the reunions, of the children running to parents, of the sisters hugging each other, of generations reunited. How could you not be thrilled by that? So, but then again, there are so many hostages that have not been released, and very likely many will not be released. Some of them they're discovering have been killed that aren't even alive, and we don't even know the story with so many of them. So, you want to be happy for the good news, but you can't let yourself get too happy because there's so much that's not okay. And I think I experienced that a little bit when I spoke to that gentleman that you were interviewing. I had a few minutes with him and I was asking him, he was telling me the story of his father who did survive. He locked himself in a bathroom, hid in the side of the bathroom. The terrorists were shooting down the door. Thank God he was not hit. He said they did not try to shoot open the lock of the door to get in, and maybe they didn't know anybody was there, and the father survived. So that was obviously a positive thing. I expressed that I felt that was a miracle, that was something positive, but that may have been the wrong thing to say because, it may have been insensitive, and I'm happy to admit that, it's very difficult to know what the right thing to say is. So he said he was hoping for a lot more miracles. So, his mother died. I'm saying, so we can focus on the positive, on the miracles that happened, but we can't get carried away because there are so many miracles that didn't happen. So many people died. So many people are still hostages. So many families are in pain and in mourning and suffering. And we have to work with both emotions at the same time. One day, the other week, we went to a funeral, and from a funeral, we went to a wedding. It's the same thing. You have to be able to channel both emotions in the healthiest way possible, but sometimes you don't know what to say and you don't know what to feel, and it's confusing. I only hope and pray that all the hostages will be released soon, immediately, and that Israel will be able to destroy Hamas once and for all. And this tragedy, this nightmare should be over. and God willing, just go back to better times.
Amen. Yeah, I think this was an important episode to have, and it was very important for us to discuss this, to encapsulate, to go there, to document what we saw, to discuss this on the show, to share it with our audience, and we hope that you guys feel the same way. I want to apologize for not being the normal, uplifting, inspiring show that we normally are, but it's definitely appropriate to have at least one episode where we are mourning and we are, being real with the emotions, the raw emotions that everyone is feeling. And we hope you feel the same way. And we can celebrate these reunions and get back to work and destroying Hamas.
We started this podcast with all the positivity, and that's still going on, by the way. Just because we didn't share it with you this week doesn't mean, there's so many videos that we've been sharing with each other about the amazing things that are happening. That's still happening. So don't get, discouraged by what you've seen today, what you've heard. There's so much positivity, so much beauty, so much unity going on. As J.P. said, we felt that it was time to just kind of shift focus and show people what actually happened and to mourn.
To mourn. We watched these reunions, and it is emotional. It's not just all happy. I mean, we're feeling relief and pain and destruction, and we need to be real with that in order to move on and try to heal. And so that, to me, for me at least, that was this week, was like really just trying to be with Klal Yisrael and feel the pain that these families are going through, that these individuals are going through, these children are going through, and to try to really be with them and pray for them and uplift them and others. And Bezrat Hashem, we should hear good news, and they should hear good news, more good news, and we'll be together another time soon.
Hopefully for happier times, and all of you should pray for the victims, pray for the hostages, more of them to be released.
Yeah, Bezrat Hashem.
And pray for the IDF to once and for all destroy this vicious, vicious enemy.
Amen. Amen. Thanks for joining us again at Inside Israel, and we look forward to seeing you next time.